All right, welcome back. I'm Dan Haggerty. This is In Depth. Let's get to an In Depth that I promised over a week ago. And I would like to start with a statement. I believe in being authentic. It's important to me. I hope that comes across. I'd much rather someone tell me the truth than sugarcoat stuff. Take Alex, for instance. He emailed me recently and said, Dan, you're probably a nice guy, but I simply can't stomach listening to you discuss a topic. I truly find you annoying. So I actually find that refreshing. I mean, in a painfully frigid ice bath sort of way, but refreshing. I know exactly where Alex is coming from, and not everyone gives us that courtesy. Which brings me to the fight for Tez Walker. He is the wide receiver at UNC who got benched by the NCAA after transferring too many times. Now, bear with me here for a minute. I want to go through some of the details. I want us all on the same page. I want to give you the timeline. Here it is. In 2020, Walker graduates high school in Charlotte, signs with East Tennessee State, but deferred after a knee injury and never played. Then he committed to NC Central, but the season got canceled because of COVID. And again, he never played a game. So he transferred, this time to Kent State, where he played for 2 seasons before transferring yet again to UNC, where he is now. Now, the NCAA looked at this timeline and said, okay, you have to sit out a year. Then, applying this new rule that says a student can't play at more than 2 schools without sitting out a season, a rule that I have to mention wasn't actually made final until after Walker transferred. That had some people confused. Well, why wasn't he grandfathered in, right? The rule came after. Also, the NCAA is counting NC Central as a team where he played, but if you think about it, he never really played, did he? The season was canceled because of a global pandemic. So should that really count? Lots of people say, no way, it shouldn't, like head coach Mack Brown, who responded with shame on you in all caps to the NCAA. He said in a statement, how dare they ever speak about mental health and student-athlete welfare again? Then things got even worse when the NCAA responded to Brown and said, hey, cool off, man, because we are getting threats of violence against the board. It was getting kind of scary for a moment. The story was everywhere. It was all over social media and radio shows, Sports Illustrated, all the major networks. Everyone was talking about it. You couldn't miss it. And now we're about 3 weeks into this saga, and I have one question for you. What is Tez Walker's major? You know what I mean? Like, what's he studying in all of these schools that he's going to? I'm serious. I can't find it. Even on the team website, I pulled it up. Nothing. You'd think it would be part of each and every single story, considering how we're always told that these kids are student athletes, not the other way around. Do you know why the NCAA changed that transfer rule in the first place? To protect students. Something they've always been criticized for ignoring. It's so kids don't switch schools every single year to play with a new team who now has the best new quarterback. To keep other programs from poaching players from school to school. To keep summer break from looking like NFL free agency. To keep kids from putting football ahead of everything else. And Mack Brown was one of its biggest supporters. In April, he applauded the new rule, saying, the other thing they've done with the transfer portal, which I think is good, is they've said that you can't transfer twice undergraduate without getting a waiver. And while Tez Walker has only played football at 1 school, he's enrolled at 4 schools. And he's only a junior. New books, new teachers, new classes. That's not really how college is supposed to work. If education was truly the top priority, like we're always told it is, wouldn't that play into the conversation about mental health? But it hasn't. Not from Brown, not from UNC, not from the media, not from fans, nowhere. I hear you, too. Look, when you listen to Brown's points, the timing of the transfers, the hypocrisy with the NCAA, he makes some compelling arguments, but you either believe in the ethics of the rule or not. There's no effective date for virtue. Now, this probably sounds like I have an opinion on Walker's eligibility, but I don't. Play, don't play, that's not what I'm talking about. I just don't like lip service. I don't like feeling as though I might be getting manipulated. The New York Times published an opinion piece this morning with this awesome graphic of this Mr. Peanut-looking football guy who I love. It was written by an inside man, a regent at the University of Michigan, who called the current model for college sports a money grab and a shameful time for all of us involved in college athletics and higher education. He wrote this About some of the new super conferences that are coming up. The current ACC expansion as well, where the Atlantic Coast Conference ironically added schools that are literally on the Pacific Coast, purely to make money from TV deals worth billions. Here on the screen, this is how he broke down what this means for kids who have to travel now across the country to play these sports. College football teams, he says, get chartered planes and nice hotels, but the Olympic sports like field hockey, track and field, crew, which most athletes play, flying commercial is the norm. For a University of Michigan team to travel to a game at the University of Oregon, for example, requires over 7.5 hours of travel on Delta Airlines with a layover in Salt Lake City or Seattle. That's longer than a flight from Detroit to London. And he's not even mentioning the time changes. These are kids in school, most of them paying full tuition. And because we want to see UNC play Stanford on ESPN, the lacrosse team has to travel across the continent, which again is fine if the man who orchestrated this entire move didn't say this a few weeks earlier.
There's a need to reaffirm that the student-institution relationship is just that. Our athletes are students, not employees.
Look, I'm not breaking any news here. Common sense broke this story years ago. But we do need to be honest with the path we're headed down when it comes to college sports, especially in this town. I guess the moral is, be like Alex, our honest viewer, who probably turned this segment off the moment I started talking. Unless I'm growing on him, Alex. That happens sometimes. I grow on people. This is such a big topic, all right? I have a lot more to get into. I never even mentioned NIL. Tell me what you think. Email me at dan@WRAL.com. Tell me what is on your mind, and we'll go in depth.
Dan, after hearing you talk, all I can say is this is a football country with a money problem. That's all I got.